Morning, research suggesting that black and minority ethnic women are twice as likely to be on 0 hours contracts as white men. The TUC collated the data, says this is the prime example of structural racism, as it says in action. Let's get thoughts of Michael Buraimoh, CEO of the equality organisation Race on the Agenda. Very good to have you on the programme with us today. Is this something that you found, what the TUC is reporting?
It is definitely a big problem, but it's not surprising because we've seen many research in recent years. But it's still a damning indictment of racial inequalities in British society in 2024.
Okay, so what are some of the figures? What have you been led to believe? And we're talking here specifically on 0 hours contracts, and twice as likely as white men. That's pretty damning, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about 5.8% of black and global majority women versus 2.7% of white men. So that is a big problem. But there are other research as well. Joseph Rowntree Foundation, for example, shows that around 50% of Pakistani Bangladeshi, 40% of African families, and 30% of Caribbean families live in poverty. These all have impact ultimately on people's experience of the workplace or in the workplace.
Why such high figures?
Well, for me, I think the biggest problem is the structural nature of this problem, of this issue. But of course, the policies of government ultimately in refusing to address the historical disadvantages, but also in not addressing the issue of 0 hour contract especially, allow this problem to continue to exist because it means that employers can take advantage of the labor of black and global majority people. It started a long time ago, right from the 1950s and 60s, when we saw mass large-scale migration happen. And the people that were brought in from black and global majority countries were brought in with a sense that they were coming in to do the more menial, unpleasant jobs. And while this was properly legislated in the late 70s, I believe it is, it continues to be a problem because the damage had been done and many families had already been set firmly on the path of poverty and marginalization in our society.
Government will say it's doing all it can on 0 hours. Clearly you don't think that's enough.
No, we don't think so at all. We back TUC's call for a complete ban, and we do acknowledge that there are people who benefit from it. Students, for example, who enjoy the flexibility that it provides. But we believe that a solution to that can be provided in a better arrangement.
So who's got to come up with this arrangement, and how would that work?
Well, it would have to be government, ultimately. It would have to be government. And I do believe that where there is political will to make that change happen, solutions can be found. But ultimately, we need to focus on solutions that do not disadvantage, that do not allow certain members of our society, black and global majority people, to be disadvantaged. That's the primary thing. So if that means that we eradicate 0 hour contract altogether, then that's what we have to do. But we can find other solutions that would work for other segments of our society.
So just to outline that a little bit, then, these other solutions or other arrangements.
Well, it's not something that we as organizations that work for race equity can come up with. It's policy decisions that have to be made, ultimately. So for us, it's a matter of we want to see racial equity put in the center of any solution that's found. That's the primary thing. And that means both addressing the issue as it exists today, as it impacts on people from black and global majority backgrounds, but also existing the more structural issues that allow it to continue, the more structural inequalities, not just in employment, but also in areas like housing, in areas like health, in areas like criminal justice, because these all things, the experience of black and global majority people in all of these areas reflect in the eventual outcomes in employment that people experience. And not only as it exists today, but for future generations. And if we want to curb that today, then with any solutions that we come up with has to put race race equity at the center of it. That is very important.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens going forward, won't we? Michael Buraimoh, many thanks indeed for your time. Michael's there, CEO of the equality organisation Race on the Agenda. It is 10 to 9.